supernatural assistance.
No, it's not divine supernatural assistance.
Well, it's persecuted historically. That is what, I mean, when millions of people lost their lives
it's the seasonal,
in Europe,
Helen,
that is what they lost their lives for,
the
not
seasonal,
the definition that you're coming up with
It's
today.
the seasonal cycles of earth reverence, of pantheism and animism that you speak so glowingly of in your book, and suggest that Christianity and its rape of the environment has gotten away from that sort of thing. Now, that is one of your theses. I've read the book, Helen. I know what you say in the book.
Wait a minute. How do you dispute that? You know, I mean, and here again, I'm talking about the Reformation, when people really started to demand that all paganism, all sort of ecclesiastical magic, any sort of ritual or festival that was tied to the natural seasons and the cycles, that everything like of that nature is done away with. I mean, they went so far in England in the Parliament to pass laws both in 1647 and 1652 which outlawed the celebration of Christmas. In this country, here, the United States of America, in the Northeast, as late as 150 years ago, you could lose your jobs, your child could get kicked out of school if you were caught celebrating on December 25th. I mean, before that, you could end up in the whipping post or in the stock. You know, the idea of Christmas was such a pagan idea. It was so closely tied to the winter solstice, and that people
Originally it was. Now, there's no question, but when our society today, we have demythologized it from that pagan significance, but at that particular point in history where there was a closer point of reference, perhaps those people had some legitimate concerns. I'm not sure that you... I'm not sure you and I ought to be sitting in revisionist judgment over them. Can I ask you one very interesting question? How in the world did you make Charles Darwin the friend of Christianity when in fact...
By his own writing, by what he writes.
Give me a break, Helen. The man was destructive to the most fundamental beliefs of Christianity and has become one of the greatest enemies of the cross of Christ in human history. Charles Darwin.
You know, if you are locked into a mindset that only sees black and white, that only sees an either-or reality, it's going to be real tough to see how Charles Darwin really thought of himself as Christian.
Well, originally he was. Yes, originally he was in terms of his upbringing and his initial thought. It wasn't until he got into his...
I mean, he would have agreed so fervently with what Protestant and Catholic reformers were saying of the day, that everything is earned through struggle, through competition. He was taking exactly what he was taught and applying it to the natural world.
Well, now you're treating it with some broad philosophical thesis. I'm talking...
You're absolutely...
I'm talking...
How am I supposed to go into detail with the 30 seconds I have?
Okay. But Helen, let's just talk simply about the theory of evolution, okay?
Sure, let's talk about the theory of evolution.
Let's just talk about that. I mean, that is anti-Christian, non-Christian, has been, was, still is. The man is not a friend of Christianity.
That's not my point in the book. The point is that Charles Darwin, it was building upon the foundation set during the Reformation of the ideas of what is a godly order, what is godly behavior, and he followed that very much to a T. I mean, all the ideas of struggle, of competition, of elimination through the, you know, through...
You're saying he got survival of the fittest from Christian theology? Is that what you're saying?
You read that chapter on the Reformation and read what reformers were saying of that during that time period. That is what they thought that God demanded. God no longer gave anything freely. People were to work and to struggle, and it was only by the sweat of their brow could you get ahead. If you thought that you could invoke God's assistance in something to do anything magically or easily, that could get you burned at the stake.
All right. Okay, Helen Ellerby, author of The Dark Side of Christian History by Morning Star Books, a BA in English Literature from Colorado College, and the two of us are having a heated head-to-head, toe-to-toe confrontation over her book, The Dark Side of Christian History. You write, organized Catholics have done no more than Protestants to support personal liberty and democracy. The Catholic Church has championed authoritarianism and opposed democracy and freedom. You know, there are Catholic Christians in China today, I think that would be extremely upset. They are suffering for their faith because, in fact, they oppose totalitarianism. Can you look no more closely than the recent history of Poland? I mean, tell me, Helen, how in the world can you construe the thesis that the Catholic Church has been the enemy of democracy?